Hello, I'm Mario Cordero, Chief Executive Officer of the Port of Long Beach, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Port Update. Today, my guest is Richenny Bovannak, a civil engineer and highway coordinator for HDR, a major civil engineering consulting firm. Richenny grew up in Long Beach and attended the California Academy of Math and Science, otherwise known here as CAMS, a high school in the Long Beach Unified School District. During her sophomore year, she was introduced to the Port at our annual Women in Trade Luncheon, which is part of the Port's vibrant program of educational outreach. 2 years later, during her senior year, the Port of Long Beach awarded her a college scholarship for her upcoming studies at Cal Poly Pomona, where she eventually earned a degree in civil engineering. Richenny also interned at HDR twice, before eventually being hired full-time, where she is now helping Long Beach build the Port of the Future. Richenny Bovannak, welcome to the Port of Long Beach.
Thank you, Mario. It's a pleasure to be here.
So both our parents wanted us initially to be doctors.
Yes, that's right.
We chose not to. You went into engineering, and in high school, I was a math major as a prospective engineer, and then of course I changed my occupation endeavor to being an attorney. But the interesting story about you, again, is the background that you have is just an American dream here. So let's start with what inspired you and moved you to seek an engineer discipline?
Well, there's so many things about engineering that appeal to me as a person in terms of my beliefs and my passions. Something that's huge with me and my upbringing is involvement in the community. And with engineering, especially civil engineering, we see that crossover, right, in the way that we're involved in community projects, right? We reach out to the community to get their opinion on future projects and things like that. And so knowing that I want to problem solve as part of my future, I want to improve the quality of life for others, it was a bit of a no-brainer, right? How do I mesh that all together in a career? Well, engineering. So, and also I'd like to say I'm a little bit good at math as a bonus.
Well, Richenny, again, the great story is, for the Port of Long Beach, our mega project is the Pier on Dock Rail Facility, one of which we are blessed to have received grants from the federal government and the state regarding the magnitude of this rail facility that's being built here. It's going to be the state-of-the-art inner rail facility of any port in the country. And you're one of the engineers working on this project.
Yes, that's right.
Do you ever step back and think, did you ever think you'd be in this situation?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, as someone who grew up in Long Beach, it's actually funny how much I didn't know about the port growing up. I always saw it as the background imagery of, going to school and going downtown. Oh, okay, there's trains there. That's pretty cool. But I didn't know the vastness of what we have here. So knowing now that I'm helping in improving the infrastructure there, it's something I absolutely did not think I would be doing at my age right now, especially considering now that I know, right, how important the port is to the rest of Long Beach, to the rest of California. It's really incredible to see the impact that a project of this magnitude has. Yeah.
Early on, while you were a student, as I mentioned in my opening comments, you received a scholarship from the Port of Long Beach. How important was that at that point in time for you?
It was super important. As someone who values education, right? My parents, they came to the States on the legs of a war happening in their home country in Cambodia, and something that people were persecuted for was gaining a higher education. Even wearing glasses, you were, taken away from your family because that was a sign of being educated. And so me being the eldest of my siblings, me being the firstborn in my family, it was so important that I pursued that education and pursued those opportunities that a lot of people back in my family's home country were not able to pursue. So getting a scholarship like that just ensured I would be able to do that, right? The stress of finding out how am I going to pay for my tuition, how am I going to pay for these books, especially someone who's never done this before. It was so important, and I'm so thankful that I was able to get that, because it was 4 years of knowing, okay, my books are going to be paid for this year. Okay, I can, keep going with this and really do what I set out to do.
Well, you're at the beginning
Yeah.
of your career as an engineer. If I could take you back to July, we had a groundbreaking of the PRP on-dock rail facility, and Secretary Buttigieg was there opening this groundbreaking for the Port of Long Beach. What were your thoughts on that day?
I thought it was so cool, to put it in very plain words, pretty awesome that we had all of these people working on this project. There was the train, the engine that came in, all electric, first one in the port. That was mind-boggling to me that we are able to develop that kind of stuff and bring it here into our communities. I thought that it was also very important, the message that he was sharing. Not only that the port was servicing the rest of the country, but also servicing people that are close to us. He shared a story about explaining to his daughter what he does for work, and I related to that very much, knowing that I had to have that same conversation with my family, with my siblings. So what is it that you do at work? What is it about these trains and about the rail that's going in that matters so much? And so hearing from those individuals, the speakers that were there, and then especially Mr. Buttigieg, it was so impactful and very, very interesting, to say the least.
Well, the locomotive you're making reference to was the PHL progressive zero-emission locomotive that's in the demonstration mode right now at the Port of Long Beach, which is why we refer to us going back to 2005. We announced we were going to be a green port, and all the accolades we received and accomplishments in reducing emissions, and our goal is to be zero emissions. So, we refer to us as the Green Gateway. So I think that's, as you know, very important for the Port of Long Beach. But let me ask you, what else has an interest for you of the Port of Long Beach? In other words, other than this project you're working on, it's not just this project, this mega project. What else about the Port of Long Beach that intrigues you?
Well, I would like to say the scale of it. So I mentioned before that I'm a resident of Long Beach, and I grew up not knowing too much about it. And it was when I was in high school that I was able to go on a boat tour of the Port of Long Beach and Port of LA. And that was the first time that I saw with clarity, right, the size of these ships, the amount of cargo that they were bringing in, the really intricate workings, right, of the port. And so that's where it kind of all began. Looking up at these huge cranes that they said came in on a boat, right, that they lifted up into the air. I was like, this is really what I want to learn more about and what intrigues me. In addition to that, the history of the port here in Long Beach. The port has been around since, I believe, the 1930s, if not earlier. Well established before our time. And so knowing that it is such a fundamental part of the community as well intrigued me as well, because I like history. I like learning about that kind of stuff. And so through these projects, kind of going back in time a little bit and seeing what it was like before in my hometown is really something that I am so fortunate to have the opportunity to do.
Well, I'm glad you're referencing that experience, because this is why the Harbor Commission here, our commissioners are very invested on educational outreach, because we want to make a positive impact on young students, high school students, college students, because I think you've shared a story that for me, I also have a memory of how important that is. So for example, I think I just shared with you that you and I commenced our high school career knowing that we want to be engineers. But as a senior at Gardena High School, I went to an event sponsored by the LA Unified School District, a retreat, and I met a Mexican-American attorney. And he gave such a great talk that said on that day, that's what I want to do. I want to be
That's
an
right.
attorney. It just drove me to that. And so I think for us, we remember these experiences and how important it is for Port Long Beach to continue with their educational outreach and these internships and this connectivity, because there's students out there that, like yourself, they don't know anything about the Port of Long Beach. Unfortunately, many students of color are not introduced to fields of high technology, engineering. So like I said, I commenced this interview by saying you're the dream story. So let's keep on
Thank you.
with these questions.
Oh.
And what's your next step as an engineer? What drives you? What do you think your next aspiration is?
Well, so I'm very early on in my career. So right now, I know that I'm a sponge. I'm learning as much as I can. I'm interacting with as many people as I can, because I know that I'm in that kind of very early on spot where I will need all that information later on to grow. But I know in the future, I want to give back in a way. You know, there's a lot of opportunities now for mentorship through things like WTS, through other organizations. Even the Women in Trade Luncheon is something that had a big impact on me. And so being able to give back to the local schools and going out to speak and supporting and educating young women to know that what I did is something that they can do too. That's really my biggest goal for the future.
Well, Richenny, there's a cliche that over the years I've always heard, never forget where you came from.
That's right.
And I think you're a role model, and for the Cambodian community, absolutely that mentorship or example that you offer for particularly young women in the Cambodian community is just amazing. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And with that, this concludes this interview. It's been a pleasure to meet you, Richenny. And again, keep in touch with the Port of Long Beach.
Of course.
All right. It's been delightful talking to Richenny today. We enjoyed hearing about her experience. We know she will continue to grow and succeed in her career. And Richenny, we're very glad that the Port did what it could to help you find your way to your current role at HDR. For anyone who would like to find out more about the Port of Long Beach, scholarships, internships, and other educational outreach, please go to pob.com/education. Thank you, Richenny, for joining us, and thank everyone for watching.